Hello, welcome back. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We enjoy your company, that's for sure. Hey, folks, listen, if you're in the mood for some Union Edge swag, get on the website. There's some stuff there. You'll enjoy it. We appreciate that very much. In the meantime, on the line with us, we've got Admiral Joe Sestak. Admiral, welcome back.
Charles, thank you.
Always a pleasure, Admiral. I understand that you're back on the street walking again. You know, I got to caution all of our Navy friends, you know, being a ground pounder myself, that you got to wear the right socks and not use dress shoes, but that's another thing. So, Admiral, I'm sure you're going to be fine. You've been doing this enough, but I understand you're walking with a bunch of college students today. What's going on?
Well, I got asked by students up at Kutztown University to bring my 422-mile-plus walk, because after I walked across the state, I still walk between cities and on country roads to talk about events. But they invited me to bring my walk up and join them in their walk today of 5 miles to underscore voter participation barriers that we have in Pennsylvania for students and others. And so that's why I'm going to be walking with them and talk about the particular challenge students are having when polls are being moved farther distances away from where the universities are.
Admiral, how can people that make those things happen, knowingly making it more difficult for people to vote, look at themselves in the mirror in the morning?
Well, you know, sometimes they say, well, it's about a cost. You know, another polling station. Wait a minute, let me step back. I served in the Persian Gulf, where at times I would get in the Navy my absentee ballot after the election was over, and I would be defending the right to a vote. These are students that we want to have more engaged in the democratic process, not less so. And there's at Kutztown University, their precinct actually there has about 1,600 active students who are registered voters. And yet, right next door to it, there's another precinct with its own polling station that only has 285 active voters. So why are we now moving this poll, which they did to polling station 5 miles down the road, making them walk all the way down there? Okay, got it, good exercise. But wait a moment. Why don't we just have it, you know, right where it used to be 2 years ago, where the preponderance of the students are to make another precinct? By the way, the election code actually says that newly developed precincts should at maximum have 1,200. We've got 1,600 there at the university alone.
We got to do something about that. And it's a shame that these things happen. It's a shame that some people allow this to happen. And I got to say to my good friends that are out there, Republicans, Democrats, or independents, when you see this happen, and you don't stand up and you don't say something, you're condoning this type of activity. And that's all there is to it.
And too often people say, well, students aren't engaged, you know. And then if you remember, during that voter ID law, that the Republican leadership in Pennsylvania was pushing, and Senator Toomey said it was good. It actually said prevented students from using their state university-provided IDs for access to the ballot box. They said you need a state-issued photograph, an identity card, and yet they then forbade public state universities provided ID cards from being used. Look, don't prevent our youth from getting there like Senator Toomey wanted to do. Let's make sure that we can actually have our youth be engaged and hopefully remain engaged even more actively as we go on in this great America of ours.
There you go, Admiral. We appreciate your thoughts on that. Talk to us a little bit about your campaign coming out, a little bit of breaking news, coming out and supporting medical or leave for families.
Absolutely. I came out very strongly here for family leave program, a national family leave program, because now we have had 3 states, our neighbor, for example, New Jersey, as well as Rhode Island, and another state that has actually said that 88% of the businesses have said there has been no impact whatsoever on profitability. In fact, it's increased the profitability a certain percentage when they've given paid family leave for women and guys, their fathers, to have up to 60 days to take care of the child right after birth, or a senior member of your family who's very ill. And by the way, the employee pays a certain percentage of that as well as the employer. It's had no impact on the debt, and here's the bottom line. You actually now have women more employed in the workforce supporting their families, and you have women staying longer now for their employers helping their business, and you don't have women that are then being laid off for maternity leave, to take maternity leave, and going on tax-subsidized types of programs. It's a win-win-win for us.
Admiral, let me get you to do a take. I mean, you were in the House. You get it. Paul Ryan, unfortunately, when he was a young man, his father died. He collected Social Security to protect himself and his well-being, and it allowed him to go to college. And then also, when he became Speaker of the House, he said, you know what? I want special consideration from my fellow congressmen so I can spend quality time at home with my family. But he doesn't want those things for other people. What are your thoughts?
It's a wonderful point you bring up, because we are an exceptional nation because we were the first to create the middle class in the entire world. And we did it because we created an environment where everyone would have the opportunity to be all they could be, but we used our collective resources so everyone could join together and build a ladder so that individual could climb up higher. But here's the key. When you get to the top, like Paul Ryan has done, remember, all we ask of you is to add another rung so your next generation can climb even higher. That's what I think they forget. It isn't about the here to now that you've made it. It's about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're all in it together. Look, in the Navy, the biggest thing that the Chief Petty Officer does is mentor the young sailors so that they would then become the next generation of Chief Petty Officers that are the backbone of our Navy. And that's why something like family leave, the ability for a woman to have a child and then come back, because statistics have shown that employees who are women are now staying longer in New Jersey with their companies, and companies are paying less money in expensive retraining by not losing a woman because they didn't have family leave. This is a win-win. The individual gets to be all they want to be in work, but we all benefit, the employer as well as the tax subsidy programs aren't having to be used to support that family. That's what has to be gotten through, that government can advance our freedoms and actually help us even prosper.
Absolutely. Admiral, let me get your take on one other thing. South China Sea. Chinese are building islands? Really? I mean, what's going on there?
Well, I'll tell you, this is where the global war of terror has understandably taken our eye, but shouldn't have, off the ball. Look, I think the strategic center of gravity for America this century is in the Western Pacific with China, this superpower coming onto the scene. And here's what they've done. They want to own the South China Sea. They've claimed 90% of all the water there by building artificial reefs. They go underneath the water, they build it up artificially so it's above the water, and then they build an airstrip on it like a stationary aircraft carrier. And they put military planes on it, and they say this is now an island. And an island that under the international rules of the road, because it's artificial, does not mean that they now own the water surrounding it. If it was a natural one and they owned it over the centuries, it would mean that they are. So they are building these islands to claim 90% of the South China Sea, and then with military forces on them saying we are going to enforce it. That's why the United States Navy last week decided that it would, under the president's guidance, it would actually move what we do all the time. We did it with Libya. We did it with other countries that wrongly say the commons of the seas are theirs. We sailed safely a United States ship under close guard through that water there to say, no, this is open to everyone, because underneath those islands are billions, if not trillions, of minerals and gas and so much wealth for energy. And that's why China's doing this.
Uh-huh. That explains a lot. Admiral, listen, final words. Today's election day. What do you have to say?
This is the day we celebrate what America is all about. One man, one vote. The democracy that I defended was so that everyone would have the right to vote, and we must make it even easier, more accessible for people to practice it in fast-paced lives. And keep an eye, I believe, most importantly, on your local and the judicial races, what are the most important ones of all, because they affect you in your community, as supervisors make decisions on development or other issues in schools. And number two, judicial races. Our judicial branch probably shapes our character more than either the legislative or executive branch, because eventually even a presidential election went to court. And therefore, when legislation is passed like the Affordable Care Act, or you decide whether some legislator like Pennsylvania's has gerrymandered the district, it goes to court. People neglect the judicial branch to their peril in not voting. Exercise your right today. We defended that, you and I, Charles, and people should take that right up because it's safely guarded, and it is our most trusted part of our democracy.
Has Pat Toomey conceded yet?
Hello?
Hello. Admiral, has Pat Toomey conceded the election yet? Admiral,
I want the people to make sure they decide that with that great vote 1 year from today. Thank you very much.
Admiral, it's always a pleasure. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon. And Mr. Toomey, if you want to come on, please let us know. We'd be happy to have you. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio.